Hi, friends. I'm Brenda L. Balding. The L stands for this TV show, Love's Inner Voice, the path of self-discovery. Thank you so much for joining us today. What a blessing. We're going to be talking about finding our joy or freeing up our joy through creativity. With our beautiful guest, Constance Chapman. Before we do that, let's do our heart breathing to bring us into the present right now. Let's breathe in light and love of the divine, of source, whatever you call that for you. In through your heart, down into your lungs to this beautiful soft music. And as you breathe out anything that you're ready to release today into the hands of that light and love. And let's do that 3 or 4 times. Just breathe in. Imagine it going through your heart, into your lungs, down into your core. And breathe out anything that you are ready to release today. Let's just do that for a few more breaths. What a joy to be with you today. Thank you again for being here at Love's Inner Voice, the path of self-discovery, because we're all in self-discovery mode, at least all the people I know, and hopefully you are too. And today, I have an incredible person, Constance Chapman. She is a creativity coach. She does have some coaching on YouTube. And she talks about doodling with the divine. And we'll hear more about that during the show. She's a creativity teacher and coach, soul message artist, and spiritual writer. She serves women who would love to have more joy, beauty, creativity, fun, love, expansiveness, and connection in their life. Constance has a master's of arts in women's spirituality and an MFA in creative inquiry, an interdisciplinary arts program where she studied writing and painting. She is also a certified Color of Woman teacher and a licensed spiritual mind practitioner with Centers of Spiritual Living. She combines the work of international creativity with her spiritual work to help women move from overwhelming and stressful situations to gratifying, peaceful, and fulfilled lives. Yay! Let's welcome Constance Chapman. Welcome. Yay. Good to see you, Constance. Thank you for being here. One of the things that you wanted to talk about was freeing our joy through creativity, and that joy is our birthright. Talk a little bit more about that, please.
Well, I'm going to talk about something else first, if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Because before this program started, Brenda and I were talking, and she was having a hard time. I've found throughout my life, I lived in Canada for 35 years, and when I was in Canada, I used to get called Corinne, and since I've come back to the States, I get called Candace, and Brenda was doing that, and So I just wanted to share that that one of the things that our minds don't do well, that it doesn't, our minds don't deal with negative. So, if we say, don't call Constance Candace, you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
And it did happen when you introduced me. So, but I want to tell you why. Generally, I don't care. I know who I am. I had a friend many years ago whose name was Candace, and she'd been called Candy throughout her life. And she could not look anyone in the eyes. And she
Mm.
had been someone's candy when she was very young in
Mm.
a very inappropriate way. So that name just doesn't have a good resonance for me. So I'm going to just leave that aside and talk about joy, because I just the thing about joy is that joy is, as far as I know, and if, from my belief system, it is a spiritual quality. It is one of the qualities of that divine, that one energy that is everywhere present. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, and that energy being everywhere present means it's in every single one of us. And therefore, joy is in every single one of us. Now, that we get that on a human level, we get that confused with the emotion of joy, which is the which is also very valid. Uh, and so we think if we're not feeling joy, we don't have joy. But the fact of the matter is that joy is always with us. It is our birthright. It is something we came in it. All you have to do is look at an infant, um, and you'll see that joy is there in their eyes. It's in their total awe and wonder at having been released from that small confined place, and maybe a bit frightened as well. But nonetheless, it's and and so what. Um, uh, I had a hard time most of my life actually accessing that joy for me, because I had a filter that sort of went over everything I did that said I wasn't good enough. And there's nothing like judgment to dull your ability to experience joy. And so it was just doing my own work for spiritual work that finally allowed me. And I found it when I painted. And I had painted for many years, but the joy hadn't come out. As it was there, but I couldn't really own it because of that um, that that internal um, critic that was there. And so
Mm.
finally, it was during the pandemic that it just was like, it was like a gift from the divine. And there was this I was going to take a painting class online, and this voice in my head said, "You're painting with acrylic. If you don't like it, just paint over it." And somehow that just totally freed the critic to go, "Oh, okay, that's good." And so then what happened is that I was able to get my critic to be more of my discernment. And so my critic is very useful to me now. So
Yeah, thank you for that, Constance. You mentioned you didn't use the word taught, but some of your experience taught the joy out of us. And you've used that term with me in conversation. And some of the description you gave told us how it was taught out of you. Can you get more specific about that it might speak to other people that are watching, if you would like?
yeah, like I said, I don't think it can't be taken out of us because it's within
Right,
us all the time. But it can
right.
be, we can learn to cover it up. You know that saying, hiding your light under a bushel? Well, that's what we're taught.
Yes, got
That's
it.
what that is, and that's what we're taught. And so for me, it came in many different ways. Um, I used to be very enthusiastic, and things would happen, and I'd want to tell people about them. And I had an older sister who'd say, "Quiet, don't do that. That's not okay." And so I got a lot of that don't share.
Yeah.
and so I learned to hide that light under a bushel and not to share it with people, or to share it very very selectively. Um, and that was one way. Another way was that my mom and my dad did the best they could, as most parents do. My mom had been trained as an artist, and as many women did in the 50s, she gave it up. Well, she was actually in the 40s when she got married, um, and she ended up with 4 kids under the age of 6, I think, maybe 5. Anyway, it was a brood and a lot of work, and
Mm-hmm.
so um, she made this decision when because my sister is about a year and a half older than me, that my sister she could go outside. It was all right for her to climb trees and to play with the boys in the neighborhood, baseball and stuff. And it was okay for her to do artwork. It was not okay for me to do that. I stayed inside. I got to stay inside and help her.
Oh
Um,
boy.
so I got discouraged from doing creativity. I remember when I was in junior high, I had an art class in junior high called middle school here, I think. Um, and it was when the song, let me get it right, the two one-eyed, one-toed, uh, purple, pink people eater. Do you remember that
Oh
song?
yes. Oh yes. The
Anyway,
Purple People Eater song. Yes, yes.
anyway, we were in art class. We were making a paper mache, so I made the one-eyed, one-toed purple people eater, and I had so much fun with it, and I just totally enjoyed it so much. And I brought it home, and my dad looked at it and was like, he didn't have a clue what to do with it. It was just sort of like, so it's another way of just, it was another way. My interpretation of it was that it wasn't any good. Not that he at that age I didn't wasn't able to say he didn't know what to do with it, which is what the truth was. So
Right.
so that was some of the ways that things I got told to keep things quiet.
Yeah. Then how did you free yourself, or how can we free that inner voice of joy? And I know a lot we talk about love's inner voice. It's part of love, and it's a piece a lot of times that people shove down, or it is shoved down because it's so enthusiastic. And that scares some people because they don't want to be seen, or they're being informed that it's not safe to be seen.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
how can we bring that joy out when we're a lot of times walking in fear?
Well, I think that's the first thing, is to recognize that you're walking in fear.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
that's the very first thing. That if you're anytime we're in fear, it's gonna suppress all of the love, the joy, the bliss, the all of that. It's gonna suppress all of that. And
Yeah.
so it's really important. And if um, and so it's whatever you have to do to find a way out of that fear. Um, there's in my spiritual center, there's a module that is taught all the time called From Fear to Faith, and
Mm.
it really is a good one, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have any faith in anything. Well, what people have faith, they either have faith in the goodness of life, or they have faith in fear.
Oh, yeah.
So that, again, the first thing starts with your awareness, and once you're aware of that, then the what you need to find to help you move out of that will come. But it has to start with awareness. The other thing that was really helpful for me is I spent what felt like years, it wasn't really, thinking that I just had to get rid of all of those. If I could just get rid of all those false beliefs out of my mind, then everything would be perfect. Well,
Mm-hmm.
two things happened. Number one is I I recognized that the world is infinite, that life force energy is infinite. Therefore,
Yeah.
therefore, those
Therefore,
the beliefs are infinite. And they're never going to. They're always there. That doesn't mean that I. And the second thing that I learned, and I learned this from a spiritual counselor that I worked with, is that I can't get rid of that voice in my head. I have to learn to love that voice in my head,
mm-hmm.
because that voice is actually was there to protect me for some very important reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Once I flipped it and tried and stopped trying to hate and get rid of, which was to separate myself from that, and instead embrace that and find ways of loving that voice started to transform and become more of an ally rather than because it is the duality that we put ourselves into. The that voice inside me is bad, therefore I have to get rid of it, and I only can be in this good part of myself, and this is the bad part. Well, that's never going to work. That's all of us. We're all of that. It's like I think it's a Japanese tradition, and please excuse me if this is wrong, that when pottery is broken, they don't throw it away, they repair it with gold
Mm,
to show that it brings the wholeness back, but also shows that those cracks are what, in many cases, the cracks that we've had as children that show up as adults. That's what lets the light through. That's what is the gold within us, and when we start learning to love those cracks, then we can start seeing the gifts that those cracks have given us. And for me,
oh,
I do a lot of that through painting.
yeah. Constance, I love that metaphor. And one of the things, I had a nice visit with my 98 plus year old father last week, and we were having a heated discussion about core beliefs and beliefs that we were raised with. And, because I was raised Catholic, he was raised Catholic, and there's some of those that I'd much rather spiritual. And he said, and I said, and I can choose to walk in that path or not. And he says, well, can you really? Because there's still a part of you. They're never going to go away. And I really appreciate the way you just explained that or stated that, Constance, because it lit the bulb about what my dad was trying to say, that it's always going to be a part of me, and I can love it and honor it and
Mm-hmm.
learn from it and allow it and transmute it so that
Right.
we're walking together
Mm-hmm.
in the best wholeness that we can in any given moment until the next one comes up and wants to be supported and loved too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So thank you for saying that. So what how do we really free it? What little tool do you have? You've talked about doodling, you've talked about painting, you've talked about writing. What simple things can we, the audience, do to free our inner joy?
Well, I think the first thing is to find out what it is that allows that to happen. So for some people, it's dancing. For some people, it's music. For
Yeah.
some people, it's cooking. For some people, it's gardening. Whatever it is, and joy doesn't have to be exuberant and loud. Uh, Going back to that point about people, because I used to be scared of those big emotions. Uh, because I was sure that as soon as I had one, the other shoe would fall. That something horrible
Oh, yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And but joy doesn't have to be a big emotion. It can be a um, very quiet feeling within. So if that's sitting in the garden and looking at your favorite plant and just allowing yourself to allow that feeling and that to come forward, that's all you need to do. So for
Yeah.
some people I know, it's going and walking in the woods and forest bathing. Um, um, but one of the things that I do, the doodle with the divine, is so because one of the things that stops us from being able to feel that joy and to access it is the monkey mind. The mind that goes bah, 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 bah,
Oh,
bah, bah.
yeah.
And doodling
The
can actually
merry-go-round or the gerbil runner, whatever you want to call it. Yes.
very simple thing that you can do is just to take a piece of paper and a sharpie if you have it, or just a piece of a pen, and just start doing whatever on the paper. Then if you have crayons, you can sit there and you can color in. And it's just what happens is that your focus shifts. And when you're focusing on doing that, it quiets the mind. And so then that allows something else to happen. And sometimes when you do that doodling, you'll actually see something in the doodle and it'll tell you something. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But that's a very simple thing you can do because it just brings you right back to the present, because it's being in the present that allows all the joy, the love, the peace, all of that to show up. Um, so is that helpful?
Yes, it is helpful, Constance. And what it does for us and the world once it's freed. And it's so interesting because when you were talking about it, what I heard was what encourages or what makes my heart quietly sing
Yeah,
or quietly dance. It doesn't mean the body is dancing, but what makes my heart feel light.
right.
And to me, that's joy, and we all experience it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Why don't we doodle? Shall we doodle for a couple minutes?
Sure,
I'll get a piece of paper.
I will too.
And dear audience, why don't you get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil or some colors and let's doodle.
And
And
you can do this
doodle
anything.
out any stress that you're feeling, doodle out any shoulds that you might be feeling.
You can also do
Or
it with
just
you can also do it with your non-dominant hand. Um, or you can just you can close your eyes once you get yourself to the paper. You can close your eyes and just do it so that you're not, because sometimes what will happen is that the mind will go, well, you should be drawing something. You should. So if
yeah,
you
the
want to,
shoulds.
you
Yeah.
should. You then do it with your non-dominant hand or do it with your eyes shut, because what we want to do is create a mess.
Well, and the thing about doing it with your non-dominant hand is that it allows the subconscious to come out. And so
Yeah,
you might get an interesting picture or not.
yeah.
It's just fun to do. So let's do it for a couple of minutes and then I'll share mine and Constance can share hers if she wants. And just take a look and see what's going on. How fun is this? Yana, if you could play some music, that would be great. And if you think about it, do a little heart breathing while you're doing this. Just breathe in some light. Yay. Thank you, Yana. How are you doing, Constance?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was surprised. I didn't want to get up out of my chair and go off camera. So I just grabbed two pens and did the two pens together
Hmm.
this and created something fun.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
And I'm going to look at it later and maybe I have some colored pencils and maybe color it in and see what I can see
Hmm.
because I have a feeling that there's some fun stuff there.
Hmm.
How did yours turn out?
Well, I had a green Sharpie right here, so I
Uh-huh.
started that, but I started using it in a different. Instead of holding it, I was doing it in my non-dominant hand, and I was holding it like this, very lightly, and
Uh-huh.
it's interesting. So, and then you can see I started to color it in, but so
Oh, fun.
yeah.
Nature. There's nature. And a lot of us do find joy walking in nature. I know when COVID first started, because I'm a hugger, I was hugging trees because they would say hello to me
Hmm.
and they would hug me back, so to speak. I
Hmm.
don't hug them as much now, but I do touch them when I see them and thank them for all their support.